So there's a couple things I gotta say before we officially get into this video. Number one is I understand by the time this video uploads we're still in early December of 2025. The reason why this is coming out is because of the Game Awards confirming that they will be showing some new RE9 content, even though as I am recording today, it got spoiled. And I kind of want to get this out before that event, and also people can discover this video soon enough before the game comes out. Second of all is I made a video just like this last year, but I read a lot of the comments mentioning I was spoiling a lot of things that may have involved a few games, so I do apologize for that. And it's funny because I wouldn't be surprised if I saw some people from that video come to this video seeing my attempt to do this again. I'm just going to say this: if I do end up spoiling anything major, remind me to never make these kind of videos again. But regardless of that, Resident Evil Requiem is going to be releasing in the next couple of months, and in a few days we will be getting a new look at the game soon. The Resident Evil franchise has been going on for nearly 30 years, and next year is the 30th anniversary. With just under 200 million copies sold across all games, the fandom is increasing as days go by. So for today, and another attempt, I'm going to be discussing almost every Resident Evil game, breaking it down for you from the synopsis and gameplay elements in order, and at the end of the video I will be letting you guys know what Resident Evil game is best to begin playing the series entering 2026. One final thing I must say is this: there's definitely way more games than just the mainline, but because of the lack of preservation and ports these games have, unfortunately I'm going to have to cross some off, and some of these games have their own unique feel to them. They stand out in a good way, but most of the time bad way compared to the mainline games. If you became a fan of Resident Evil from any of these games, you will never be forgotten, and we love you lots. So games like Resident Evil Outbreak, Survivor, Dead Aim, Darkside Chronicles, Umbrella Chronicles, Operation Raccoon City, Umbrella Corps, Resistance, Reverse, Gaiden, and really any game that does line up with those, they will not be mentioned to the fullest in this video. That doesn't mean any of these games are bad, it's just very hard to find these games and play them nowadays, which sucks because a lot of those games I mentioned I haven't played myself. But no more yapping, let's finally get into it. Resident Evil 0 is known as the prequel to Resident Evil 1, and it takes place, I believe, just a day or two before the events of RE1. On July 23, 1998, a train owned by the pharmaceutical company Umbrella, the Ecliptic Express, comes under attack from a swarm of leeches. 2 hours later, the Bravo team of the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, aka STARS, is sent to investigate a series of cannibalistic murders in the Arklay Mountains outside of Raccoon City. The main character of this game is Rebecca Chambers, an 18-year-old medic for the STARS Bravo team, along with Billy Cohen, who was sentenced to death after supposedly killing 20+ people. The gameplay is very interesting to say the least. Unfortunately, this game does not have co-op. You'll have to manage both characters and their inventory, which on your first playthrough can be very rough to say the least, because it happened to me. Rebecca has the ability to combine herbs, which is your healing items, but takes a lot of damage, while Billy is the exact opposite, while also being a better shooter than Rebecca. The fixed camera angle has started to become a more polarizing topic in today's world of Resident Evil. Some people absolutely cherish it, while others aren't the biggest fan. It's a conversation or debate, I guess you could say, that may go on for a little while longer. The game definitely has its pros, like the train section and the way the game looks, and it has its cons as well. That's all I'm going to say for this game. Now next up, it's a little tricky for me. The original Resident Evil still has a unique charm to it, to say the least. It started everything we know of today. Maybe you are a fan of the very interesting voice acting, or I could just say very bad voice acting. But since the remake came out in 2002, it's really felt like a forgotten game, because realistically speaking, that's just how great the remake was and is, and many people describe it as the perfect remake. Now, does this mean to not play the original RE1? No, you should still play it, trust me. Let's not fully disrespect the classic games. But I'm going to be talking about the remake mostly. The STARS Alpha team were sent into the Arklay Forest to investigate the strange murders. After being attacked by Cerberus dogs, they run into the Spencer Mansion. You get to play as Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine. Jill has 2 extra inventory slots, which is probably the biggest reason why everyone goes with Jill instead of Chris. Even though he has a lighter, which is very helpful, he's not a master of unlocking, to say the least. Chris is cool, trust me, but Jill is just better to use in this game for me. But from the atmosphere and aesthetic of this game, it's right there being one of the best in any horror game. The music is incredible and the characters are great too. It's got everything you need in a survival horror game. And again, if you really had a very strong reason to not play the game, it's more than likely, again, the fixed camera. But at the same time, it's not really that big of a deal. It may take an hour or two to get used to. Yes, the controls in these games are very different from how they are now, but you'll be just fine. I promise you, it's not that deep. Now we get into both Resident Evil 2 Original and Remake. Last year when I made this video, I made a small error that I want to fully explain. This isn't the game that saved Resident Evil. There was another one that I will talk about later, but if people really wanted to believe that Capcom and Resident Evil were officially back for good for the foreseeable future, this game cemented it. It introduced the most popular character in the RE franchise, being Leon S. Kennedy, It introduced Chris's sister, who was amazing in her own right, being Claire Redfield, and others like Ada Wong, Sherry Birkin, and much more. This is an amazing game. Despite me having my few nitpicks, it's got the third-person camera perspective and has very good puzzles. By the way, that's a very important thing in the other RE games too. It's got a great atmosphere, it takes place in the iconic Raccoon City, especially the RPD. Unfortunately, what was going on with the Spencer Mansion has now happened to the city, and it was driven into complete chaos. Leon arrived late on his first day as a rookie cop. Claire arrived looking for her brother Chris. Everyone has their reasons being there. But this isn't the same as what RE1 was, to the point where the remake wipes the original, no debate. Or whatever, because that's not the case one bit. The original RE2 has one of the best horror game soundtracks of all time, and once you do play both games, you'll understand major story differences. Fortunately, if you have a PlayStation or a PC, sorry to Xbox players, which include me, you can play the classic RE games finally. Which now brings us to both games of Resident Evil 3. Jill is back at home and her city is driven into chaos. It usually takes place around the same time as RE2 in some form, but I don't know, I could be wrong because I'm going to be real, I'm rushing this video. But it introduced the most iconic BOW in the series, being Nemesis, a relentless pursuer that won't stop until you're dead. Jill's goal is to get out of the city while she still can. Carlos Oliveira is there to help, and he's a playable protagonist too. It's a little bit more actiony compared to its previous titles, which is something that we will get into more later on. But you're probably asking, is it the same as RE1 in a way about the remake and original conversation? To a lot of people, it's the exact opposite, but that opinion applies to the people who played both. The remake of 3 isn't necessarily a bad video game, it's still pretty decent. This isn't me saying to stay away from the game, it's just there may be some better options. Original RE3 is still very good soundtrack, atmosphere, you name it. Now, we get into an interesting game, this being Resident Evil Code Veronica. Some people adore this game while some people are not the biggest fan of it. Claire is back and still on her journey to find her brother if you're wondering where Chris went. It explains in RE2. It's not really the biggest plot point in RE2, but you'll get it. This game released I believe in 2000. I might be showing my fake RE fan badge in this video, but regardless, Claire is now on Rockford Island after getting transported there. She meets a prisoner by the name of Steve Burnside and they work together on escaping the island. The game is very much like the games before them. Fixed camera angles, interesting puzzles, amazing soundtracks, and lots of backtracking. However, this is the most requested Resident Evil game to get a remake so far. But even with that, it should not stop you from playing this game. Albert Wesker is also back, if you're wondering. He was the leader of the STARS Alpha team in RE1, so yeah, you'll understand what's going on with him once you play that game. Now we get into a game that changed Resident Evil moving forward. A lot of people thought for the better, and some for the worse. This is my favorite video game of all time. It's Resident Evil 4 Original. It started the third-person perspective, and Capcom hasn't really went back. Kind of. I'll explain later. The action has completely ramped up from its past games. Leon is back and is in a rural village for Spain looking for the US President's daughter, Ashley Graham, because he became a government agent. We have a merchant in this game to help upgrade your weapons from firepower, capacity, and much more. There's a few people that return from Leon's past as well. It's more action than horror, but it's very addicting to play. One of the things that makes this game so great in my opinion is the replayability, and that also goes for the remake of this game as well. What I applied to the original goes to the same for this one. The knife is a major emphasis in terms of combat and survival. Definitely the most important weapon in the game without a doubt, especially the parry mechanic is so addicting to say the least. Now let's move on to the next game, being Resident Evil 5. Imagine RE4, but the action is turned up a few notches. For a while this game was actually the most sold RE game ever. And I think it still is, including every port it has, but you're probably thinking this. RE5 isn't really in the conversation for the best RE game ever. Chris is back and is in Africa hunting down an arms dealer named Ricardo Irving. Sheva Alomar, his partner, is there to assist him. The combat system and everything from gunplay, combos, and just literally everything makes this one of the more addicting games in the entire series. The replayability is one of the best in the series as well. The weapon variety is great, enemy variety is good, but it does stray away from the horror that what made the RE franchise feel so good. Even with that fading away, it's still a fun game to play, and I would strongly recommend it if you're looking for a fun RE game to play, or even just with a friend. Next is Resident Evil 6. Now imagine RE5, but the action is turned all the way up. It's balls to the wall to say the least. Surprisingly, one of the most sold games. It features a star-studded cast: Leon, Chris, Sherry, all grown up from Raccoon City, and Ada Wong, while introducing new characters like Pierce Nivens, Helena Harper, and Jake Mueller. The horror that we once knew was gone, to say the least, but just like RE5, co-op is obviously back. Now listen, I enjoyed this game for what it was, but this game was the reason why Capcom had to sit down and really discuss what was next for the future of the series itself. Because even with this game slowly getting liked by some fans, if you were an RE fan around 2013 or 2014, it's safe to say that Capcom itself were in a very dark phase. Even with the mainline games getting criticism, there was the side series that did hold the fans down very well, and it's starting to get a lot more love as days go by. This is the Revelation series. These games released in 2012 and 2015. Both of them feature female leads being Jill Valentine and Claire Redfield. Chris was with Jill, and Barry Burton, who was in RE1, was with Claire, along with his daughter Moira. Both of these games have very good blends of action and horror, and the settings are completely different. Revelations 1 definitely has a variety, some of the game being in the freezing cold, on a ship in the middle of nowhere, and a city about to be destroyed, while Revelations 2 is on a remote island. The way you can upgrade weapons is different from RE4 and 5, and there's some good gunplay as well. It's a good side series to play, and it actually connects with a lot of lore very well. And now we get back into the mainline games, and the entire discussion of what is best for the RE series. They announced a new engine they developed their games in, being known as the RE engine, aka Reach for the Moon. And I could be wrong about this, but the first game shown in this engine was Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which this game was the one that saved the franchise, and honestly, you could argue Capcom as well. It introduced a new character by the name of Ethan Winters searching for his missing wife Mia. Little did he know going to Louisiana was going to be walking into a nightmare, aka the entire Baker family, being led by one of the best villains or characters in my opinion, being Jack Baker. Survival horror is back, inventory management, ammo saving, and everything we once knew about the franchise itself back then, it came back. Not to mention a new camera perspective was introduced as well, being first person. It has very high highs in my opinion, but some nitpicks like not being able to skip cutscenes, that kinda sucks to be honest, but a really good game regardless in my opinion. Ethan wasn't done just yet though. He comes back in Resident Evil Village and is on the hunt for his kidnapped daughter. Chris is back from RE7 and looks a lot better than before. This game introduced a new enemy known as Lycans, and also, if you know of her, introduced Lady Dimitrescu, along with Carl Heisenberg, Mother Miranda, and much more. The game also has the Duke, which is someone very similar to the Merchant in RE4, and he also does the same stuff from upgrading weapons and buying healing items. He even cooks food for you to extend your health, which is a very unique feature I like. Eventually, a year later, this game added third person with its DLC content, and I wouldn't say it's the best, it's surprisingly the worst version of the camera, and it probably has a lot to do with the development, possibly being rushed. Regardless, very underrated in terms of replay value, and honestly, I think it is an underrated game in the series in general. I feel like that it's become that if you're wondering how I personally feel about this game. But since I ran through every mainline game and hopefully I did not spoil anything crazy, what game is best to start off with? If you consider Resident Evil Requiem, where we have a new main character, and we are going back to Raccoon City, and from the gameplay snippet we got, I think the best game to play to get into Resident Evil is RE2 Remake. It's arguably been their most successful game in the RE engine era. Well, it actually just might be. It's great to play, and that is what Requiem may feel like. That's also if you plan on buying RE9, and you can see the story of Raccoon City transpire. And then entering Requiem, we go back, but obviously play the other games too. And also, if you are a PlayStation or PC player, play RE2 Original because that game is absolutely fantastic. The next game I would say, because I'm going to say my top 3, second place is RE1 Remake because of how perfect the game is. Or should I say remake. It shows you the events that happens before the Raccoon City incident, and it's an incredible experience. The fixed camera you can get used to, I promise. Third is surprisingly now that I think of it, I don't know if this was my ranking from my last video, but it's RE4 Remake. So you can get the feel of intense action along with great horror elements in the RE engine. Also, it's extremely addicting to play. I believe those are the 3 best games to play to get into Resident Evil, and if you are planning on playing Requiem when it comes out, RE2 Remake or the original is your best option to play, trust me. I hope I didn't spoil anything major like my last attempt. Also, last thing to say before the video ends, there is a new section in the YouTube comment section allowing you to hype the video. It helps boost the video into the algorithm a lot, so I would really appreciate it if you guys did that, but I'm not fully educated on that new feature. But anyways, hype the video. Leave a like, and if you think there is another game to play when it comes to getting into the franchise, let me know in the comments down below. But with everything out of the way, I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, and much love.